Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth. Make we reason. Make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va. No upper echelon. Nobody is not above the law. As long as it now help Jamaica. Make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength. Make we.
Good night, everyone. Good afternoon. Wherever you're listening, watching from around the world and the Eastern Caribbean, welcome to the Mach We Talk program with yours truly, Jeffrey Tavares, the poor people governor, who continue to fight for the poor people of the Caribbean and the poor people of our country, Jamaica. This evening, we're going to have the leader of the Dominica Workers' Party. Let me get that correctly here. I do apologize about that. And I have the guest in the chat room there. Hold on for me. He will be my special guest this afternoon. Yes. The leader of the United Workers' Party of Dominica. You know, Dominica has been in political turmoil for a little bit because of election reform. But this evening, as I have my guest waiting in the chat room, I want to say something before I bring him on. We have a little housekeeping to do. Welcome to the program. Thank you all for coming on. Remember to be very respectful to each other in the chat room. I'm not going to delete anybody from this chat room because you must have freedom of speech. But we all must have respect also. For those who are listening to us beyond the shores of our island, Jamaica, and other parts around the world, welcome. It's indeed a pleasure to have you on this evening on our program here. I'm waiting my co-host, Mr. Headboy, to come and speak to us. I'm going to run a program this evening that is going to be something that we all must remember. As Haiti faced political turmoil, I said it a long time ago that the Caribbean itself is trending in a different way when it comes on to political corruption from leaders of government in the Caribbean. And when you have a government that will not listen to its people, and a government believe that they're all heads, and they believe that they are Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, and Jamaica is becoming a dictatorial state. Would I say that Dominica is becoming a dictatorial state too? Possibility it is. And this evening I have with me none other than the leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica, Mr. Thomson. Dr. Thomson, rather. Welcome to the program, sir. Unmute your mic and welcome to the Electoral program.
Yes, thank you very much, Tavares. It's great to be with you and to be talking to your audience tonight on this very important issue of Dominica. Indeed. And what's going on there currently. My pleasure.
Before we go any further, Dr. Thomson, tell us a little about why did you decide to enter politics?
Yes, well, the main reason that I decided to enter politics is because I felt that I had something to offer to Dominica. I've been working overseas practically all of my adult life as a former IMF economist and later in South Sudan, across Africa. And I felt that given where I came from, this very tiny island of Dominica, I felt that I could really contribute to my country in a very meaningful way. And probably the best way of doing that is through politics. And especially now, given the fact that we have in Dominica an individual who has been there for the past 20 years, he's party in office for over 25 years. And the fact that Dominica has not grown in any sense of the term, the economy is in shambles. I thought that given my strength as an economist and my forte for economics and just a genuine interest in people, that entering into the political arena was probably the way I should go. And that's why I'm here, offering myself to the people of Dominica and trying my best to contribute to its development.
Doc, before we go any further into our discussion tonight, I want to ask you this question, though. Your views on the present Secretary of State of the United States that visited the Caribbean. He stopped in Jamaica, then he went on to Suriname and other places. Your views on him visiting the Caribbean so early in his tenure as Secretary of State of the United States?
Well, what that points to is the critical importance of the Caribbean. In terms of what the Trump administration wishes to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And given the fact that, in a sense, Trump has declared war, if you like, on the Chinese, and the Caribbean appears to be cuddling up to the Chinese quite a bit. And it makes sense to me that given where they are in the state of relationship between the Chinese government and the US government, that the Caribbean been right in the middle of that debate. It made sense that the United States would try to show up its support and also try to stamp its authority in the region, quite frankly.
Mm. And do you think that the Secretary of State had dictated to Caribbean leaders what to do and not to do?
Well, they were very clear. There was not an ultimatum, but it became very clear that Caribbean leaders were given a choice. You have to decide if you want to toe the Chinese line or whether you want to go with the United States of America. So I think, in a way, it is something that the Caribbean leaders understand that they must respond to, given the willingness of the Trump administration to wield the baton, the stick. And it is clear we are not dealing with a situation of carrot. There are no carrots for the Caribbean, apparently. It's all about the stick. It's all about the US way or no way. So I see a lot of that kind of, in a sense, I wouldn't say it's arrogance, but in a way, it's almost like the Caribbean islands have been asked to make up their minds. Either you stay with us in the United States, or you go in the Chinese orbit, and then there will be consequences if you choose to either stay or go the route of the Chinese.
I see we're in Comrade Rolf Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On Jamaican soil, he said that he's prepared to give up his American visa. Your take on that? If you were the leader of Dominica, the Prime Minister of Dominica, would you utter such things out of your mouth, sir?
Well, with respect to Prime Minister Rolf Gonzalez, he's never moved into the Chinese orbit. He's had this very strong interest in the Taiwanese, and he's maintained that. But I think his concern was having to do with the Cuban relationship and having to kind of choose between Cuba and the United States. And the feeling in St. Vincent, as it is in Dominica and most of the Caribbean islands, is that the Cubans have been friends of the region for many, many years. In the case of Dominica, they've educated the majority of our lawyers, architects, physiotherapists, you name it. They've contributed tremendously to our human resource asset. And even today, they staff our hospitals. Their doctors are in Dominica, their nurses are there in Dominica. So we have this very close affinity to the Cubans. And the sense is that if the Cubans have contributed so much to the region, why should we abandon them? So if I was the Prime Minister of Dominica, I would certainly not abandon Cuba. I believe it is the right thing to do for the Caribbean leaders to stick to Cuba. And I don't think it's fair as well that they be given that ultimatum. I honestly don't think it's fair, given the amount of work that the Cubans have done with their limited means, the kind of support that they've given over all those years. And I think the Prime Minister saying that, I would kind of support him in that respect, as it has to do with Cuba and the very strong support for the Cuban people and government.
Let's switch over to what we came here to speak about, and is our sister country, Dominica. Dominica has been having a little issue when it comes on to election reform. Tell us some more about that.
All right. So we've been fighting a really tough battle of electoral reform. And let me just put that in context to your audience. Dominica is a population of roughly 70,000 people. We have a voters list of approximately 75,000. So our voters list exceeds the physical population of Dominica. And the reason for that is that over the many years of the Labour Party in government, they have refused to cleanse the voters list. So that list is riddled with persons who were dead, persons who have migrated for many, many, many years. So we've had that issue of the bloated voters list. In addition to that, the Labour Party government adopted an approach where, because of the size of the country, they have been able to look at the different constituencies, go overseas, plug into the huge Dominican diaspora, and bring them into marginal constituencies, effectively overturning those constituencies in their favor. And they've been able to do that because they have seemingly unlimited amounts of resources. As you know, Dominica has a CBI program, Citizenship by Investment, which for $100,000 or $20,000 now, you can get a Dominican passport. They have been using that. So unlimited amounts of resources, being able to bring people in. So in a sense, every election cycle, the opposition has had zero chance of winning because of that manipulation of the system. So we have been pushing very, very hard for those reforms. It came to a head in 2019, after the elections of 2019. We were able to get the Caribbean Court of Justice to take a closer look at what was happening in Dominica. And the Caribbean Court of Justice opined that the Dominica elections are fraught with taints, with irregularities, and that no future election should be held in Dominica with those taints, the bloated voters list, importation of voters, bribery and treating, and all the rest of it that was taking place. The list is
what do you mean? What do you mean by importation of voters?
That's with respect to looking at the constituencies that have very close margins, and then they would go overseas and they would bring individuals who are residing overseas who are not ordinarily resident in Dominica. Some of them may not have satisfied the residency criteria, yet they were brought in to vote in Dominica. And the way that is done normally is that on election day, they will charter planes from the United States. They will charter ferries from Guadeloupe, from Martinique, and Antigua. They will bring these individuals in the morning, the vote, and at the end of the day, they will go back to their countries. So that has been happening over the past 3 election cycles. And in 2019, when the CCJ made that determination that the
Caribbean Court of Justice,
the Caribbean Court of Justice, yes, should not be held with those taints, the government, in a slap to the face of the justices, called a snap election in 2022. That was just 3 years into a 5-year term, and made absolutely no changes to the electoral system. As such, as a party, we decided that we could not participate in this, so we boycotted the election. Bear in mind, we were the government right before the Labour Party got into government, and we decided not to participate. And as such, our major party abstained. And that was on the face of, again, the reports from every election cycle. We have had observer missions from the Organization of American States, from CARICOM, from the Commonwealth. And every time those observer missions come, they will say the same thing, that there are problems with the electoral system in Dominica and that it needs to be fixed. But the government of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit did everything possible to ensure that those taints remain, that those irregularities existed, thus effectively preventing the opposition from ever gaining power in the country. And that's why we are where we are. So we have been fighting for this battle. When we boycotted the elections in 2022, that kind of forced some movement on the part of the government. So they came forward with some type of reforms. The government hired a high-profile jurist, the former chief of the CCJ, Sir Dennis Byron, to do a detailed analysis of the elections processes and to make several recommendations on how the process can be improved. The government, instead of utilizing the report of Sir Byron, they effectively trashed it, set that aside, and came up with their own ideas as to what reforms could be. But at the heart of this is the fact that they failed to tackle the issue of the bloated list. So what this current legislation, which was passed 2 weeks ago, says, the bloated list, the 75,000 person list, remains as a list for any future elections. And what will happen is that you will have a confirmation period. So persons who are on that list, including individuals who may have been out of the country for 40 years, but whose names still remain on that list, they can just confirm their names. So, for example, my name is Thomson Fontaine. I've been overseas for 25 years. I come into the Electoral Commission. I says, well, that is really me. Here's my birth paper to prove it. That's Thomson Fontaine. So what that does is that it sets aside the whole question of residency. So now no longer do you need to be resident in Dominica for that period of time. Even if you're overseas, you're now regularized. Because now by confirming your name, only your name, by confirming your name on that list, it stays. The legislation goes on further to say that if during the time, the 15-month period that's allowed for this confirmation, if during that period an election is called, the list that will govern the election is the same bloated voters list. So we are saying that the reforms that we got, they're inadequate because it does not tackle this fundamental issue of the voters list. And it also, and very importantly, it does not tackle the issue of campaign finance reform. Because what we've seen is the government that has been willing to use unlimited amounts of resources in the millions of dollars, as I said, to charter flights We're not talking about several flights from the United States and the U.S. Virgin Islands, bring them into Dominica. They have those resources, money, some of which has not been accounted for, and so on. In fact, we have had to go to court to force the government to provide some accountability for the resources that they receive from the CBI funds, and they've been able to use that over every election cycle to bring people in.
Hold on for me, Dr. Fontaine. You're saying that the administration of Prime Minister Skerritt, that's his name?
Skerritt, correct.
Skerritt, yes. When it comes on to election in Dominica, his political party will get Dominican citizens from overseas and to come in and vote?
Correct, that's correct. And in large numbers, in the thousands.
So
and
hold on. What does the Constitution say about them coming in? Is there something in the Electoral Commission of Dominica say they haven't been in the country maybe for a couple months or a month or so? Because in Jamaica, you have been in the country about 3 months, I think, or 2 months, I don't remember, before you can vote.
Yes, we have the same rules, right? You're supposed to be in the country for 3 months within the 5-year period. Okay, but what this government has done, they're bringing in people who may not necessarily satisfy this requirement. Now, when they go, and that's the other critical part about our electoral process, is that when these individuals come to Dominica, we know them. Dominica is a small community, so we know our agents at the polling station will know who has been overseas for more than 5 years. Okay, we challenge those individuals. The way the system is arranged, when you challenge an individual by virtue of the fact that you're saying they're not eligible to vote, they are still allowed to cast their vote. And then you are supposed to take that as a matter of a petition to go before the courts.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that those votes are counted. Okay, so they're put in the mix of the overall vote. So there's no way you can come back later and determine who that person voted for. But that's not the real problem. The bigger problem is that those petitions that we've lodged before the courts, every single election cycle, those petitions are denied. Even when we have overwhelming proof. Even when, as in 2009, we had a list of all of the individuals who chatted plain because somebody within the party made that list available to us. Their conscience weighed upon them. They thought that it was wrong. They gave us that list of individuals who came in to vote in 2009. We were able to confirm those individuals were there in Dominica. We knew who those individuals were. Even when we had this overwhelming evidence, we took those as election petitions to the court. And we have a judiciary in Dominica, especially at the magistracy level, that is very much in the, I would say, in the back pocket. I don't know if you use that term in Jamaica.
Oh, yes, they do. A lot of Jamaican. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. So I was saying, so a lot of these of those petitions are simply tossed aside. So we don't get justice in the courts. The government becomes emboldened and does it increasingly. So every time they require larger numbers of persons, they're able to bring those larger number of persons in, and they've been able to maintain that. And now we see a process where they claim that they've given us reform, but in truth and in fact, all it has done is to entrench that so-called winning legacy of this government, which is actually through cheating. Because when you bring individuals in who are not supposed to be there, that is cheating. When you use those large amounts of resources that are not available to the opposition, that should not be happening. And also, you have no finance campaign reforms in the legislation, so that there are no controls on this government. They can continue to spend as much as they want. They can expend us 20 million to one. They will keep doing it because they have, I said, the access to these large amounts of resources that they use not for development, Mach, but to ensure that they continue in government for as long as possible.
Dr. Thomson Fontaine, let me ask you this question though. When you look on Dominica and election reform, or it reminds me so much of my own country, Jamaica, because at one point we're facing problem in our country where election reform was a hot topic of the day. My question to you this evening, though, was there a bill put before the Parliament of Dominica pertaining to this? Why everybody exploded into the streets. And what happened? Why people went out into the streets?
All right. So the government, as part of our protest, they finally came up with some bill. They held a number of different consultations across the country. We participated. We provided input. At the end of the day, all that was tossed aside. They came up with some kind of legislation that they brought in for its second and third reading on the 19th of March, which is basically 2 Wednesdays ago. So what we did as an opposition, we called on the people of Dominica to come out and protest against the legislation around the Parliament building, which is what we did. So we came out in protest against the bill that was being passed in the House. And in the process of protesting against this bill, the police set up barricades around the Parliament building, cut off all of the streets leading into Parliament. The crowd that was there started to remove those barriers that were put by the police. And in response to the crowd attempting to remove those barriers, the police opened fire with rubber bullets and tear gas. In the process, a number of persons were injured, and a number of persons obviously suffered from gas inhalation. And it turned into an ugly riot. So you may have seen some of the photos of protesters being hit in the head by the police, the barrage of tear gas and rubber bullets, persons getting shot in their legs, in their chest area, and so on. So it turned very ugly very quickly. And that is because the government of Dominica has very little tolerance for protest. It has very little tolerance for individuals coming out on the street, which is, by the way, is guaranteed in our constitution. They claim that we did not have permission, but we made it clear even before. We held a press conference the day before the protest. I made it clear to the police that we did not need permission to call out people in a peaceful assembly, because that is guaranteed under our constitution. According to our Public Order Act, if you're going to do a procession for the streets of the capital or anywhere around, we need to ask permission. But if you're going to have a public meeting, you're going to have a gathering, that is a fundamental right that you're allowed to exercise, and you're not supposed to basically request permission. So that is what happened. We did not request permission because we felt that we were covered by we mentioned it publicly. We told the public that we were not seeking the police permission. They were aware that we were going to be doing this protest, yet they came out in a very high-handed manner and really made sure that it took but it got worse than that, because right after the day of the protest, they began arresting individuals. And it has been a slow drab of arrests. To date, some 16 persons have been
Hold on for me, Doc. Hold on for me a minute, please. I want to show a video, and I think this is the day they decided to lock up opposition members, because yes. I was in a live like this, and I got the news that there is turmoil going on in Dominica, and I said, what? So when I started searching, and I found out that it is reported that members of the opposition is being locked up. And this was a video that I got. And I want to play this video here that our listeners and viewers can see and hear. When you look on that, hold on a minute for me. Yes, sorry. When you look on that, it says that the CDU, or the CDC rather, condemned the arrest of opposition members. My question to you as the leader of the United Workers' Party of Dominica. When you see things like that in your country, sir, is it that the democracy of the nation is at risk?
Absolutely, there's no question about it. You know, this government has acted in a very high-handed manner. I talked about the arrest. They arrested two of our former members, including the former opposition leader in government, Hector Sparks John, and a member for one of the largest constituencies in Dominica, the Rosewood North constituency, Honorable Danny Luge. They also arrested several women who participated, and that those arrests have continued. To date, 16 individuals have been arrested, but they're doing it on a daily basis. They're going across the country, arresting people with the intent of creating fear. Persons have been intimidated. Persons are fearful to come out. At 6 o'clock this morning, I received a call from one of our members who indicated that the police was at his house, and he was just about to go to his farm. That's a farm. He's just about to go to his farm. He had to quickly try to get somebody to take over for him, to look after his animals and so on, because the police, and tonight he's in the police cell, awaiting a time to be brought before the court for bail. So some 16 persons have been arrested, but the way the police are going about it, it is meant to create fear. People are worried that day and next we're hearing about lists of persons to be arrested, and that is going on in a very vindictive manner. And the police have done that before. We had in 2017, we had another protest rally that we had, this time calling for the resignation of Prime Minister Skerrit. And in return, I was arrested. At the time, I was a senator in Parliament. I was arrested along with a former leader of the of the party, and also the former Prime Minister of Dominica, Edison James. And between 2017 and 2025, we spent 8 long years going back and forth in the court process. Personally, I made 22 separate appearances in court, and it was very difficult for me because for most of those years, I was working in South Sudan as a strategic advisor to the peace committee there in South Sudan. And I was having to make those trips almost every month. I would come for a hearing, then I would be told that it was postponed, no explanation given, no reason given. And the whole idea was to make us spend as much money as possible, because it's very costly each time you come from Africa.
So is it that the you're here talking to me, and I'm pretty much sure majority of my listeners and viewers on this program here. And for those who are just joining us, welcome to the program. We're speaking to the leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica. If majority of you are following the news out of Dominica, there is political turmoil going on in Dominica. And I'm here speaking to you, Dr. Fontaine. And it reminds me so much of Jamaica. There are so many things going on in Jamaica, and you're being told every day, Jeffrey, Jamaicans are scared to take up, or they're scared even to go and get permission to protest because they're scared of the Prime Minister. Is it that the people of Dominica is getting scared of the Prime Minister who's in power now?
It's not so much being scared of the Prime Minister, but being scared of the police, because the police, quite frankly, is doing the work of the Prime Minister. They have been directed by the political directorate, and they're not necessarily concerned about police work. And what has happened is that systematically over the years, the senior officers of the police force has been promoted, not necessarily on merit. There is no meritocracy in the Dominica police force. Individuals are promoted based on their support and allegiance to the government. And that has happened over the years. So now you have at the very top levels of the police force, you have a very loyal following to the Prime Minister. So they will obey the Prime Minister, they will act on his orders, and they will do as he says, very often at the detriment of the public. So the fear really is the fear of the police, because they have the guns, they have the arms. For example, the day after we had this protest on the Wednesday, the same night of the protest, the police went in with long guns to the home of Hector John, trying to break down his door.
Who's Hector John?
Hector John is the former MP, the former member of parliament.
Wow.
They claim that they had a warrant to search his house for arms. When he asked for a copy of the warrant, they could not produce it. So he refused to come out and said he jumped on a live report to the world, and he went live. And they tried to literally force their way in to his home. He was scared, obviously. He had a son in his home, obviously scared, afraid of what would happen to him. So as his protection, he went online. He went live. And that caused the police to withdraw. But because of that assault on his home, the people of his constituency blocked the major road leading into Roseau. So there was no traffic flowing. That shut down all the traffic coming from the north of the island into the south, into Roseau. And that same night, the police, again, in a very high-handed manner, they went into that village and laid down tear gas after tear gas rounds in the village. And if you know the village of Salisbury, it's a very small village, with one road leading in, one road leading out, and it's on a hill. So they would just walk up and down the roads and just throw tear gas. Persons in their homes have been impacted, and that has happened. That was the fourth time we've seen that kind of occurrence there. In 2019, they had the support of the region because we had regional security services, forces in Dominica.
I was just going to ask you, what is the current chairman of CARICOM is saying, Mayor Motley, about all of this?
Well, before the protest started, when we announced that we were having the protest, the Prime Minister went on radio to announce that he had put the regional security services on standby to come into Dominica. Mm-hmm. But knowing the history of the RSS in Dominica, we immediately wrote to the Prime Minister, Mayor Motley, indicating that they should not come to Dominica, because if they do, we would view this as a hostile act against the people of Dominica, because firstly, there was no state of emergency declared in Dominica. There were no issues of security on the island. No security issues were presented, and that the Prime Minister had used the very same pretext he used in 2019, which was, by the way, on the eve of the 2019 election. The day of the election, in a stronghold of the United Workers' Party, the RSS forces opened fire, injured, with live rounds this time, injured 2 individuals and a number of elderly persons who suffered from tear gas. And we had a series of deaths a few months after this, because a number of persons had respiratory problems. They used expired tear gas on the people. It was a whole fiasco. We actually wrote to the Human Rights Council. They opened the case on that particular activity there in Dominica. So when we saw what was happening and the Prime Minister making that pronouncement, I personally wrote to the Prime Minister of Barbados asking that she not send forces to Dominica, because there were no problems, and we felt that any issues arising, our police could be able to take care of it. To her credit, she did write back to indicate that they would not be sending RSS troops into Dominica. And she also stressed her support for freedom of protest and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, we heard nothing from CARICOM condemning the actions of the Prime Minister, condemning the actions of the police. In fact, the clip that you just showed, the very first clip that you showed, you saw someone throwing rocks. This was not a protester. This was a police officer in military fatigues. I don't know if
Go ahead. Continue talking. I'll find it back. Go ahead.
Yeah, that very first clip that you showed, where the police officer was shouting commands to advance, you had a police officer in complete contradiction to any type of crowd control, crowd protection, throwing rocks. One of those rocks narrowly missed an individual and embedded itself into a vehicle. But that was what we had. Police officers throwing rocks at the people. So we've seen that kind of behavior. And I'm happy that in this case, the RSS, Mayor Motley did not send troops to Dominica, but it's only because we put the pressure on. I believe we had that outcome, but it could have been a much worse outcome than we had, because apparently when these troops come into Dominica, they don't know us, they don't know who we are. They consider us, because they're told by the Prime Minister that we are troublemakers, that we have no right to protest, and they just go on the rampage, which is what happened in 2019. And it is very unfortunate that we have that situation ongoing in Dominica. So the opposition is under tremendous pressure by this government, using the police effectively the Dominica police has been weaponized against the people of Dominica. And that is our current situation. It is possible that you could hear of more arrests in the days ahead, including myself. I'm told that I'm on the list of those to be arrested. I participated in the protest. I was there talking to the people. We were singing songs. We were having basically sending our message in a very peaceful manner. Not one protester was armed. Not one police officer got injured. Not one could claim that any person hit them. The fight was over the barriers. There was a tussle. If you look at the video, the police were wrestling with those that were protesting over those barriers. A very peaceful crowd otherwise, and we had this reaction of the police. But what is worse is the fact that they're curtailing the rights. But it also gets worse, you know. Some of the individuals who were arrested were put on bail, including the former MP that I spoke about.
One moment.
You will see this. That's the police officer standing right there. You see he's going to be throwing. Okay, if you go just a little forward of this, you will notice that he's the one throwing the...
Hold on, let me play back over this and then we can stop there and talk about it.
Yes. Right, that's him right there.
Yes.
Right, that was a police officer throwing a projectile into the crowd. A huge rock. Right there, yes. And then...
That's a police officer.
That's a police officer right there. And then the other one that has also gone viral is a police officer that actually slammed one of the protesters who was walking peacefully with another police officer. He came from behind and floored him. One hit to his head. The protester fell unconscious for a few minutes, just knocked up cold from the brutality of the police. So it's a very brutal way to suppress any kind of peaceful protest, but that's what we have in Dominica. That's the situation.
Dr. Fontaine, is it that the Caribbean is on the brink of civil unrest when it comes on to leaders of the Caribbean? But some leaders of the Caribbean believe that they're a part of a Xi Jinping China and a Vladimir Putin Russia. Because we have one in Jamaica, you know, who believe that the people shouldn't ask him any question. And it is alleged that he sent police to drag young men from on their beds during the virus that went around a year or two or a couple of years ago. And hearing you talking about this now, it have me thinking that if Mark Golding decided to take to the streets of Jamaica against the level of corruption, the level of nepotism, $3 trillion of taxpayers' money gone down the drain, a prime minister with 28 bank accounts, is it that if Golding decided to go to the streets of Jamaica with the Jamaican people, that's how the prime minister is going to end up turning out the police force against and lock up who to lock up? You're saying that you're on a list in Dominica now to be locked up?
Absolutely. And that is where we are, you know, and it's not just myself, but there are others. Some of the protest leaders of that day were also locked up, and it is so terrible what they're doing, in the sense that not only have you been arrested, but in the case of the MP that I spoke about, as part of his bail conditions, so they kept him for about 5 days. He was locked up for about 5 days. He was eventually brought to the court for bail. But as his bail conditions, the magistrate imposed as one of the conditions that he cannot attend any meeting, any political meeting. This is a politician being denied the right to attend a political meeting.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that he offended on the 19th, because he was part of the protest on the 19th.
But isn't it Dominica's civil rights in the Constitution that people have a right for peaceful protests and a peaceful assembly of whatever?
Absolutely. But that shows you, I spoke earlier about the way the magistracy works in cahoots with the prime minister. That's another example of it. That even when these individuals are given bail, they're given those conditions that are really an affront to the human rights. It takes away the fundamental rights of being able to meet with others and discuss politics. This is a politician. That's what he does for a living. Yet he's been denied that opportunity through bail condition. His passport have been taken away from him. He's forbidden to travel. He can't travel. He had to surrender his passport. He has to report every Wednesday to the police station as a common criminal. And it's just incredible what they try to do. So the whole idea is to demoralize the opposition, to force the opposition to cower in fear, and to allow this government to continue unopposed. But it will not happen. We are committed to this fight. We are not going to back down. We're not going to give in to this Roosevelt-Skerrit administration. And we will stand firm. And interestingly enough, the CCJ, in the same opinion that I talked about, they made a very important observation. They indicated that when you have this kind of repression, as we have in Dominica, when we see election after election cycle, the vote has been stolen. They say when you have that type of repression, the end result is social unrest and upheaval. That is a natural outcome of that type of behavior, and we are seeing it. So we are down a very slippery road in Dominica. We have had over the years to try to contain our membership because people are wanting to take action, matters into their own hands because of the level of frustration. The economy is not working. We have serious migration of our people, especially the young people migrating in droves. Persons are not coming back into the country. The few jobs that have been created in Dominica, we have persons being brought from overseas to take up those jobs, including in the international airport. We have more foreigners, Chinese and those from Indonesia working in our airport than we have Dominicans. We have a handful of Dominicans and several hundred Chinese and Indonesians
working in the airport?
The airport in Dominica. So our young people cannot find opportunity. And so you have that situation where people are feeling that they have been boxed in. You know, the economic situation is tough. Opportunities are not being created. Dominica once boasted a very buoyant agriculture sector. We have enormous amounts of fertile land, and the farmers have been repressed as well. There are no markets for the farmers' produce, complete neglect of the farming community. So people feel very much that this government are just bruising them. And you talked about the 28 bank accounts of your prime minister. We have documented in the past that our own prime minister has a number of bank accounts, offshore bank accounts, that he's been able to stack money into, money that really should come to the government. And that's the reason why we took the action that we did recently, which appears to have angered the government, because the day after the protest action, we got a very important ruling in the court, because we took the government to court on two issues: that the CBI program, Citizenship by Investment program, we were requesting that the court orders that all of the money that has been raised be brought into the consolidated fund. It must come through the treasury. And the reason we're making that request is because under the current arrangement, the part of the amount of monies that come through the investment. So for example, if somebody want to take part in an investment in Dominica, say a hotel or something, they contribute $200,000 US dollars. This money goes into an individual, it goes to an individual, a company called Montreal Management. Montreal Management controls those resources, and then they turn around and they give grants to the government of Dominica. So, for example, to build the international airport, that money is coming from Montreal Management. To build the schools, coming from Montreal Management. To build housing for the people, from Montreal.
Hold on for me, Doc. So Montreal Management is owned by who? The government of Dominica?
No, it's not. It's owned by a Lebanese businessman.
So how
some roots in Canada, that hence the word Montreal. So the government made a deal with this individual that all the monies would come through him. So we went before the court to ask the court to allow the Dominican public to get a view of this contract, to force the government to reveal why it is that monies coming from the sale of Dominican passports ends up in the hands of a private individual who then turns around and serves as a private financier of the government, when those monies should really be in the treasury. So the government attempted to throw that out of court. They said that the High Court had no jurisdiction to hear the case, and secondly, that that was the appeal, while the case should be thrown out on two grounds: that the High Court had no jurisdiction to hear such a case, which would commend them to actually just follow the Constitution. Because in our Constitution, any revenues raised by the government must come through the Treasury. It's in our Constitution. It's in all our financial laws.
So is it that, you gotta finish your point? Is it that right now it seems as if the Prime Minister of Dominica is breaching the Constitution left, right, and center, like Jamaica's wannabe dictator?
Yes, he is. He is. And that's the reason why we took this very strong court action. We have been assisted by a very senior counsel from Trinidad, the former Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, Anand Ramlogan, who is assisting us in that case. And we were able to do this. And secondly, the other reason given by the government why this case should be thrown out is that the person who brought the case, in whose name the case is going forward, does not have what they call local standard. He does not have the gravitas to take the government to task on this issue. So the judge, wisdom, ruled on both corners the government was wrong, that in fact, under Article 101 of our Constitution, the High Court does have jurisdiction to hear the case, and it will go forward. And secondly, the individual who brought the case, because it's a matter of public interest that has been in the news for many, many years, the misuse of funds. We have talked about the missing as much as billions of dollars missing out of those funds based on the number of passports sold. We've sold over 45,000 passports over the past 3 years. Over 45,000, amounting to just tens of millions of dollars, in the billions. And the amount of money coming from our treasury cannot match that kind of monies that have been raised from the sales. So we have raised those concerns. So the judge agreed that this was in fact a matter of public interest and that the case will go forward. So that case is being put for May. But we suspect that even those arrests that we are seeing now has something to do with that. We believe the government is angry that the court ruled against it. They appear to be very angry with us in the opposition for raising those concerns, because we have a situation where in Dominica, for example, in our hospitals, we don't have basic supplies. Someone falling ill today in Dominica has to bring in their own. They have to send to the pharmacy to buy their own gauze, their bandage, their Panadol, their painkillers. They have to finance that themselves because those things do not exist in the hospital. Yet we have a situation where government is using all of these monies. And not only that, I talked about the prosecution of the opposition and the 8 years that we spent on this case before the magistrate's court. When it went to the High Court, within a few weeks, the High Court threw the case out, dismissed the case totally, completely, and forbade the government to ever try us on any matters around that issue of 2017. So we got some relief in the High Court. But it wasted 8 years, lots of resources, lots of time, wasted energy, and so on. But that is where we are. It's a very belligerent government, a government that has lost the trust of the people of Dominica, yet they feel they have to continue to be in power at all costs. And that is what we are fighting. That's the monster that we are up against in Dominica. That will send these police officers to the homes of innocent Dominicans who simply want to go about their lives, drag them off to jail, keep them in jail. And also it is so unjust. One other thing I'll mention just briefly.
Go ahead.
The whole process is meant to intimidate and to frighten people. So for example, in Dominica, if you're arrested, you can be brought to the court the very same day and be given bail. Or at least because that's a bailable offense. What the government is doing, they're using another rule which allows them to keep you for free 72 hours or 3 days without charging you. So you're kept in jail. You're picked up at your home. You're kept in jail for 3 days. After the 3 days has expired, they will then charge you. So the first set of protesters who were arrested spent 6 days in jail. 6 days before they were able to go to a court to get bail. So you've already spent those 6 days in jail. In my own case, when I was arrested in 2022, I was arrested in 2022. I spent 3 days and 4 nights in jail.
My God.
and because the magistrate came in to do the bail, because you can also get station bail as well. The magistrate was told to go away, and I was kept locked up for that length of time for a crime which, at the end of the day, a high court had a chance to look at it and said that there was nothing there. That I created no crime, that Mr. James, the former prime minister, did no crime. Leonard Clinton, our former leader, did no crime. So they've tried to go after the leadership of the United Workers' Party, and now they're waging an unprecedented attack on the rank and file of our supporters. The most vocal supporters of ours, whom they know, they're now picking up one by one, taking them to jail, having them spend 4, 5, 6 days in jail. And then they get bail. And when that bail is given, they're given those onerous conditions that prevent them from speaking publicly. They can discuss the case. They can't attend meetings and so on. Very onerous. A stripping of the fundamental rights of our people.
And Dr. Fontaine, nobody in CARICOM, none of the members of CARICOM, no prime minister hasn't condemned this brutal attack on the opposition in Dominica? And the people of Dominica?
Not one. You know, it is quite, you know, and we've been at this fight for quite a while. So in 2017, myself and the former leader, we traveled to Guyana to see CARICOM, to try to get an audience over the same issue of electoral reform. There was a CARICOM heads of government meeting in Guyana. We traveled to Georgetown to try to get an audience. When we arrived at the venue that morning, there were police officers who had been given the word not to allow us to enter at any cost. At the time, that was the leader of the opposition, who was my former leader. At the time, he was the leader of the opposition in Parliament. I was a senator at the time. We were denied entry because the president of Guyana at the time, President Granger, received a call from Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who told him that we were on our way to CARICOM and we should not be given an audience. So we were escorted out of the premises, never got a chance to make our voices heard to the president and to the prime ministers of CARICOM. And if up to this day, even after everything that happened 2 weeks ago, not one word from the prime ministers, not one word from the CARICOM chairperson, Mia Motley, not one word from our fellow OECS countries of Antigua, Gaston Brown, or Pierre-Louis, or nothing, absolutely nothing from Michel in Grenada. All the presidents and prime ministers are mute. They're saying nothing. They're watching silently as the opposition goes through a very difficult time in Dominica, where our very rights have been taken away from us. Our very freedom to speak openly, to protest, to challenge our government has been taken away from us, and not a word of condemnation from our CARICOM leaders.
You know, we're gonna welcome our good friend here now, but before we do that, don't expect anything from the Jamaican Prime Minister. You know, he has his own battle to fight in this country, where he believes that he's a Jeffrey behave himself. He believes that he's a one of those persons who you must not ask anything. So you know, you won't get anything from him pertaining to what is going on in Dominica, because if the opposition leader of Jamaica, Mark Golden, should take to the streets with the Jamaican people about the level of corruption and nepotism and the level of wherein $3 trillion gone down the drain, and he has 28 bank accounts. You ever hear a prime minister who create the Integrity Commission is suing the one Integrity Commission he created? That's what he's doing in Jamaica. Incredible. So that will show you that these people are power hungry, and they'll do anything to keep it to stay in power. But let us welcome our good friend, Sir Gabriel. Welcome to the program, sir.
Well, it's a high honor and privilege for me to be with my brother of years, Dr. Thomson Fontaine. And Jeff, I want to thank you for the opportunity you've given Dr. Fontaine, who's a son of the soil. He's not a Nigerian oil minister. That's one of the people who was arrested after stealing $20 billion with a diplomatic passport from Dominica. He's not an Iranian spy. That's one of the people who was arrested by Interpol in the Dominican Republic for having a diplomatic passport from the Roosevelt Skerrit government. He's not a Chinese mobster, head of the Black Dragon Society in Macau. Ng Lap Seng, who was arrested by the FBI with $6 million cash. And when he was at the bail hearing in New York, Southern District, he tried to get out. He said he's a diplomat of the government of Roosevelt's character. So Dr. Fontaine is none of those things. He's a statistician. He's a PhD in economics from Clemson. He's been an advisor to the government of the Czech Republic, of Argentina, of many governments in Africa. And he was charged on a bogus claim of trying to incite violence. And for almost 8 years, the case could not go to trial. And I think it was last month, Thomson?
Yes, last month, yeah.
The government has the audacity, the unmitigated gall to try to appeal this. But let me address CARICOM directly. Brother Tavares, when the history is written, this would go down, this period of complicity and silence of the CARICOM leadership will go down as one of the darkest days in the history of the Caribbean community. I'm going to read to you, and this is not to take anything away from those good people who have quietly said things in the quietude of their offices to Roosevelt's character, but we need public condemnation. The phrase, ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Let me repeat, ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. What that means is that no one is truly isolated, and every individual's death, every individual's suffering, any individual who has been persecuted, or any event of oppression of a people affects all humanity, as we are all interconnected. More so in the former territories of the British West Indies, because I was born in 1961. At that time, Dominica, Jamaica, Barbados were all one country. It was the old West Indian Federation. Our cadets from our high school would go to Upback Camp and St. Anne's with the JDF. Our students would go to Mona, to what was called UC, University College. And some of them, because they were handsome and very bright, the beautiful women of Jamaica would find themselves enthralled and got married to them. Not long ago, Dr. Fontaine and myself met P.J. Patterson at the Jamaican embassy, along with one of his classmates, who was the president of the Dominica Academy of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Fontaine was the treasurer of that organization. Jeffrey, what was that organization? It was not a political party. For a small island of about 75,000 people, the director of plant medicine at DuPont Labs was a Dominican. The director of quality management at General Motors was another Dominican PhD. The only black person involved in the design of the Intel chip was a PhD in physics from Dr. Fontaine's own high school, the St. Mary's Academy, by the name of Sherman Sebron. The gentleman who was at the academy was Dr. Clayton Shillingford. He went to school in the 50s with your P.J. Patterson. So all over the world, you'll find Dominicans who have done great things. And we decided to create an Academy of Arts and Sciences so we could return the human resource to Dominica, to build up Dominica. And Dr. Fontaine, on several occasions, had students from the local state college stay at his home, while during the summer, they worked at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History, where there were 6,000 plant samples on Dominica. So this is the kind of community work that Dr. Fontaine has done over many, many years before his entry into political struggle. And so I think it is important for you to learn and understand that when I speak here tonight, I'm not speaking because I'm a member of the opposition party. I have supported the Democracy Forces, that includes Dr. Fontaine's party, but the party that Dr. Fontaine and I supported initially, as he will tell you because he spoke on the platform of Roosevelt's character, was the Dominican Labour Party, because it was the sister party of the PNP. It was the trade unions that came out of the trade union movement, the Social Democratic Party. That party is gone. It's no more. It's been replaced by a passport peddling oligarchy, an elite of passport sellers all over the world. The vast majority are not Dominicans, they're Iranians, they're Arabs, they're Russians, they're Chinese, who have commodified. That is, they made a commodity of the Dominican passport and they sell it for about $250,000. And then there's a diplomatic passport now that goes for $2 million. And several of those persons Not with the regular passport, mind you, Mr. Tavares. Oh, you understand when a diplomat gets to a port of entry in the country, can he be searched? Or
No, he cannot be searched.
You go to the head of the class, my friend. Now you understand why all the people who were arrested, one of the charges against all of them was money laundering. So right now there's about $15 billion missing from the accounts for the sale of Dominican passports, and the government has yet to give an audit. We've asked them to hire an international auditing firm. You say your hands are clean? Okay. Hire an international auditing firm. Do an audit. You're innocent. What should you have to fear? The government has rejected that. Instead, what it has done is use monies from those passport sales, sometimes 27 million, sometimes 30 million in this small country, to hire planes. Jeffrey Tavares, 20 planes, 15 planes to fly people in on the morning of the election. Pay them. Give them $1,500 to $1,500 and then fly them back out in the afternoon. In violation of law, because our law says if you've not been consistently resident in Dominica for at least 5 years prior to the election, you cannot vote. So these are people who've been outside for 10, 20, 30 years.
So that means that the government is breaching the Constitution.
Absolutely, it is. It is breaching it in every simple way. And the fact of the matter is, the solidarity we should be expecting from fellow Caribbean citizens, and I don't put you in that lot because there are many Caribbean citizens like yourself and others in the media who have come out and have voiced opposition and support and have given us a platform, given Dr. Fontaine a platform. We appreciate that mightily because we want the message to go out that what's happening in Dominica is not only a violation of the Dominica's constitution, but is a violation of the very spirit of democracy, which is supposed to animate our territories. CARICOM is supposed to be an organization of democracy-oriented nation states, okay? And if we are to avoid the collapse of Dominica into anarchy, we need to act now and take Prime Minister Kerry to task to ensure that he follows the law and he does not continue to arrest democracy activists as he's doing now. No, at no time in recent history has a former British West Indian territory faced the onslaught of the attack on a village with bullets, rubber bullets and live ammunition and tear gas as in Dominica. 3 times, the village of Salisbury, because it's an opposition stronghold. At no time in the recent history of the former British West Indian territories has there been this rousing of people in the dark of night from their homes and arresting them, putting them in filthy cells and charging them with bogus crimes. That is what the government of Roosevelt Skerrit has resorted to maintain himself in power. If he knew that what he was doing was right, he would never resort to such draconian measures. And the evidence is there of the wanton use of tear gas, the wanton use of rubber bullets, of the beating of protesters. It's all there for the world to see. And we want the world to take a stand at the despotic, the oppressive, and the delinquent leadership of someone who's been there for more than 20 years and who does not want to leave office. Why? Well, if he leaves office, he feels he will no longer have the immunity that accrues to him as the head of government, and he would have to face the music. We're saying to Roosevelt Skerrit, resign. You've done enough damage to our reputation. You've tainted our country by your association with unsavory people, criminal elements, gangsters, banditti, and mafiosi. Leave and tell us where you put the money, and then we can talk about what sort of punishment should be meted out to you. But we cannot, as a community, call ourselves a community when we allow one member of the community to go rogue and we do nothing about it until it gets to a place like Haiti. We don't want to stand for that, and none of the West Indian leaders should be allowed to take a pass and remain quiet, because quietness in this situation is complicity in the wrongs that are taking place on Dominica.
You know, I sit here and I listen to you, my friend, and I listen to Doc. And I said to myself, somebody said it in the chat room, all that you people are speaking about tonight, it sounds like Jamaica.
Wow.
Every single thing that you are saying tonight sounds like our beloved island Jamaica. And that is why I said to you tonight, Do not expect anything out of the Prime Minister of Jamaica's mouth. And even if he says anything, he don't say anything too much. My question tonight to both of you. Before I do that, I want to play a video though. The Prime Minister of Dominica. What happened here? Hold on for me. Yes, here it is. The Prime Minister of Dominica was on a talk show program. And I want you all to listen to this and I ask you some questions because he said something about Dr. Fontaine that you're lying about certain things. And I said to myself, when you listen to you, because I've listened to your videos, and I said to myself, in what way was he lying? If you bring a bill before the Parliament of Dominica, and for some unknown reason, you're saying that the opposition end up voting for that bill, but that same opposition member who voted for the bill went and protested against the bill. I want you to listen to this.
Transparency and the conduct of our election.
So you think you know Wix?
Oh Lord, hold on for me. I do apologize about this. Hold a minute for me, please. Let me take this down, and then I do this. I do apologize. Okay, let me go back to this here now. I want you to listen to this, please.
20 to assist us in seeing that we couldn't get common ground among the political actors in Dominica. So Dennis made some recommendations, and we engaged ourselves in a comprehensive set of national consultations carried live on all medium. We engaged political parties, civil society, individuals, and at the end of the day, we came up with what we believe would have been a consensus document. Some of the things that are included in the legislation are voter ID cards, mandatory voter ID cards. Secondly, the issue of cleansing of the voters list by way of confirmation. So you would have to present yourself to the Electoral Commission with a government issue ID and to indicate to them who you are, and they would confirm you will be on the list. This in itself would allow for cleansing of the voters list, because a lot of people who they say are dead or on the voters list would have been removed from the voters list by virtue of that process. Then the issue of Dominicans living overseas. Now, our laws, our constitution doesn't allow the government or the parliament to remove anybody from this list by way of, except if you're dead. And so the original recommendation was to send the Electoral Commission to countries and cities where there are large concentrations of Dominicans to get them confirmed. We were following essentially the St. Kitts model some years ago. The opposition objected to that. We in the Labour Party in the government.
Hold on for me. I want Doctor and Counsel to comment on what the Prime Minister just said.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister is trying to say that he's going to cleanse the voters list through this confirmation period, but that is not possible, because you're still going to have individuals there who do not belong on those lists. And he also said that nowhere in the laws of Dominica do you have any authority to remove persons on the voters list. That is absolutely not true. The Electoral Office has the responsibility, if an individual has been away for more than 5 years, to remove them from the list. I recall in the 1990s, as a student overseas, I got a letter from the Electoral Office asking about my whereabouts, if I was coming back to Dominica or not, because they were in the process of looking at the list and looking at individuals who were away for a certain period of time. So they do have that authority. What has happened is that the Electoral Commission in Dominica is under the control of the Prime Minister, and here how he has controlled the Electoral Commission. The chairman of the Electoral Commission is a passport agent. The two other commissioners that are on the commission, Mr. Lawrence and Lennox Lawrence. These two are also passport agents. So you have three individuals that are in the majority on the Electoral Commission against two opposition appointed commissioners. And these three individuals, obviously by simple majority, they vote, and they vote in their interest. Their interest is the sale of CBI of passports. They have made enormous amount of wealth from that, and they could care less about electoral reforms or doing what is necessary. So they have stubbornly refused to cleanse the list. They have done nothing, even when those abuses, even for us, for example, every election cycle, we go through a list. We take that list to the Electoral Commission and say, this person is dead. This person is away for 5 years. Do something about it. They will do absolutely nothing. In 2009, they elect, I think it was in 2016, sorry, yes.
No, you know why I laughed a while ago now?
You heard that like in Jamaica.
This reminds me of Jamaica in the 1980s.
Yeah.
At one point, they said dead people on the voters list in 1983 got up and vote.
Yes.
The dead people from Meadows and Mapen Cemetery got up and vote in the 1980s, in 1983. And people may say, Jeffrey, you're chatting nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. Go and do no history. Do no research. What is going on in Dominica reminds me of the 80s, the 70s and 80s coming up in this country, Jamaica.
Yeah, exactly. And
continue talking for me, sir.
Yeah, and it happens because what really happens is they talking about dead people voting is that in the absence of ID cards, which we don't have in Dominica currently, it's under the new legislation, but it was not there previously. So even the individuals who would come to Dominica to vote, they would just take a name, someone that they know that is dead, and they would go to that place and vote. Because no one challenges, there is no ID card to say, well, that name is actually me. They come and they say, well, I am James Brown. Okay, James Brown, here's your ballot, you vote. But James Brown, for all you know, could have been dead 2 years before, 3 years before. But here is an individual representing himself as James Brown. Individuals vote in more than one constituency. So you have all of that happening there. So for the Prime Minister to say that the Electoral Commission or no law allows for the cleansing of the list in the absence of that type of exercise is blatantly false. And if you listen to this interview of the Prime Minister, it is riddled with inaccuracies. He's giving the impression, that Dominica is okay. That's the opposition that is trying to model things. But these are things that are well documented. The things by the CCJ, all the observer missions, it is there. We have lived it, we have experienced it. For example, let me give you another classic example of what happened. I contested the elections. I resigned my position at the IMF in Washington, D.C. I came to contest the elections in 2014 in Dominica. I ran in my village where I was born. The night of the elections, that's in 2014, I was announced as the winner of that constituency when they were giving the announcements. The following day in the recount, I lost. How did I lose? 21 ballots were considered spoiled against my name. So overnight, 21 good ballots became 21 bad ballots, and all of those spoiled ballots with my name in a constituency that since 1970 would have an average of 1 or 2 spoiled ballots. That year, 2014, there were 21 spoiled ballots in that constituency. Every single one of the spoiled ballots was against me.
I want you to read something at the bottom of this.
I ended up losing that election.
Before you say anything else, I want you to read this comment from this person in the chat room.
Yeah. And Mr. Tavares, and that's why I said, I started off by saying, ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. That means it tolls for all of us. Let me just share with you that online is the brief history of the Dominica Electoral Commission. And under responsibilities, it says, and I quote, the Boundaries Commission is responsible for, among other things, the review of the constituency boundaries and the number of constituencies. That's the Boundaries Commission. It goes on to say the Electoral Commission is responsible for, among other things, the registration of voters, the maintenance and management of the voters list, and the conducting of national elections in each constituency and local election in each authority. So that is in direct support of what Dr. Fontaine said, that the Prime Minister was engaged in an unmitigated falsehood when he says that there's no way that the voters list can be somehow regularized. It means that he would be denying what is the constitutional authority of the Electoral Commission. The problem is, as Dr. Fontaine stated, is of the 5 members of the commission, they are listed here. One is Duncan Stowe, a passport seller. The other is Alec Lawrence, a passport seller. The third on a 5-member commission. There are 6 people, but the chief elections officer is not really, a voting member of the commission, I don't believe. But there are 5 members that are actively engaged. 2 people, Mr. Shillingford, I think Henry Shillingford, or is it Hillary Shillingford? Thompson?
Hillary Shillingford.
Hillary Shillingford. It says here, Hillary Shillingford, and one of the
Wayne James.
And Wayne James. They are the 2 people who are nominally considered representative of the opposition. So 3 against 2, essentially, you know what the mathematics work out to be. And so the Prime Minister has arrogated onto himself the whole role of the Electoral Commission. When he talked about decision was made by consensus. Consensus means 2 parties meet and sit down. That is the ERC and the opposition, everybody else, and they come up with a sort of compromise. That did not happen. The Prime Minister orchestrated his consultation, stacking the rooms with his people, and did it the way he wanted it, like the old Frank Sinatra song. I did it my way. And then he put together 3 bills which have some elements of what Sir Dennis Barron mentioned, but also, for instance, on the reconfirmation of that voters list that is bloated. Understand now, you have tens of thousands, almost 60,000 passports have been sold in a 70,000 person country. Do you know what that means? It means that all those persons who got their citizenship through Roosevelt's Carrot, they can come down. Nothing stops them, Thompson. Is there anything that stops them?
Nothing stops them right now.
Is the population of Dominica is what, 70-something thousand?
Yes.
70, roughly 70.
Roughly 70.
Is a couple more figures in the population of the Cayman Islands.
That's right.
And if that is the case where they're selling so much passport, that means they're more expert than the people of Dominica.
Pretty much. That's why I tell you, if we're acting to save what's left of our country. Because let me give you an example. My grand aunt, not my grand aunt, my father's older sister, my aunt, turned 100 in Glasgow, Scotland, like so many West Indians. She had gone up in the 50s. And on the way back in London, I met a guy in a hotel. And something said to me, Thompson, to talk to the guy, but I just said good night. But next morning, again, the spirit was moving. I said, how are you doing, Governor? He said, I'm not a governor. I said, well, you must be the mayor. He says, I'm not a mayor. I was just trying to stroke him and strike up conversation. I said, where are you from? I said, where are you from? Oh, he said, I'm a Dominican. I was born in Iraq. I live in Dubai. He gave me his card, and all these other people here are Dominicans. He pointed to his 9-member family, some in the Shadow and so on. And he says, it's a very nice country. They speak English. You must go there sometime. I said, Dominica, I've never lived in my life. And I stood there listening to him talk about my country. So that's what's happening. We have all kinds of Dominicans. So last year, the British government imposed sanctions on Dominica. Because before that, the Dominicans just got to buy a ticket and go to England. Because they were seeing hundreds, thousands of Chinese and Iranians and Russians coming in. They could not even speak English. And the British people are not stupid. They're not fools. Dominicans served in the British Army. They served in the Royal Air Force along people like W. Thomson, Jamaica. They served in the Navy. The Attorney General, Thomson and I met a couple of years ago at Andrews Air Force Base, was born in Dominica. She's now the chairman or the general secretary of the Commonwealth. Baroness Cox of Ashton. So when you show up in London and you say you're Dominican and they ask you a few words in English, you can't answer. The British people had enough of it. They had enough of it. Can you imagine people just coming to Jamaica and saying they're Jamaican and going overseas and destroying Jamaica's good name?
Well, they don't have to do it. The Prime Minister is already doing it.
So what's happening in the Caribbean today, Tavares, is something I know.
Let me ask you this question before I go back to Dr. Fontaine. If Eugenia Child was alive now, what do you think she would say?
Oh, she would first of all she would maybe get a heart attack, because Eugenia Childs was a person who came from wealth, but she had zero interest in the material accoutrement of power. She would stay. Thomson and I think visited with her once at the home of the Dominican ambassador, the FAO. She would stay at her home so she wouldn't charge the government for per diem. You know per diem? The government ministers get per diem.
Yes, that's
have to spend any money. She was very frugal. Eugenia Childs was someone who was not on my political, I was not politically aligned to her, but I had every respect for her integrity. She was an honest woman. We may have had differences in political alignment, but she was an honest leader. She had zero tolerance for corruption. One time, the first termination of a minister's position ever was the Minister of Communication and Works used a Public Works Department truck. His name was Henry Babs Dyer in 1980 to carry some stones. He was building something at his house or something. She fired him for using the government truck to carry stones to build his home or some wall or whatever. She was very serious about integrity in office. And that is a problem we have now in the Caribbean. We're seeing people coming into office and getting fabulously wealthy and using the public till as a personal bank account. That's just a fact. And that's what's happening in Dominica now. Because there's no way that the Labour Party, so-called, it's not a Labour Party, the Skerritt Party, could spend $27 million on an election. Bringing Barris Hammond, bringing in Morgan Heritage, and other high-priced singers, bringing in Burna, all these kind of people into Dominica to do campaigning. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Let me ask you this question, though, both of you. You hear nothing, and I know I said it before, but when you look on the whole thing of CARICOM, CARICOM was formed with the help of the late Michael Manley of Jamaica, the late
Errol Barrow.
Yes.
Errol Barrow.
Of Barbados.
Of Jamaica. Eric
Yes.
Williams of Trinidad. All
Adams
these
of Barbados.
Yes. That's how CARICOM was formed. And you listen to CARICOM leaders now, as what my good friend, a lady who I look up to, who is, I can call her and said, what is your views on this? And she give me her views. One of Jamaica's distinguished lady of all time. You was with her on the program a couple of days ago. Ambassador Luma Samba.
Samba, yes.
Yes.
Very nicely. Very nicely.
Ambassador Samba said to me one time, Jeffrey, I will go to places as Jamaica's High Commissioner to London. And if there's a vote to be made, that everybody from different countries say, we're not going to vote yet. What is Jamaica's position on this vote? And when you see what is going on within the Caribbean and the wider world, and Jamaica has nothing to do, nothing to say, what is your views on what those who helped to formulate CARICOM now? If they were alive, what do you think they would be saying?
Let me just say this.
And Michael Manley and those names.
Yeah, Thomson Fontaine and I had the high honor and privilege to meet some of the associates of Michael Manley, of Forbes Burnham, and Errol Barrow. Thomson, I'm not sure you're aware, that squadron leader Philip Louis Ulrich Cross of 139 Squadron Bomber Command, Royal Air Force, and Flight Lieutenant Dudley Thompson, the original Burning Spear, Jamaica's Rhodes Scholar to Oxford in 1945, were all members of the West Indian Student Union in 1945 London. These were young West Indian students at Oxford, Cambridge, London School of Economics, including Eugenia Charles and Elsa Gouveia. And they were progressive young people. In fact, Thomson, I want to share with you, when I returned to Dominica, I brought some books with me. And one of the books I brought was from the famous African-American lawyer and profundo basso singer, Paul Robeson. And in his letters, there's a section where he says, I met young members from the West Indies, and they're talking about a federal government and independence of the West Indies. In the interview with Eugenia Charles, she mentions that same meeting. So talk about corroboration of evidence. You know what I mean? So Tavares answering pointedly, and Thomson may chime in to give his view. Those persons who you referenced were persons of high integrity. They were focused on public service and governance in the public interest. They believed in probity in office, and they were not interested in the speedy acquisition of material goods or wealth to the disservice of the people that they sought to serve. That was their noble legacy, and we need to get back to that. Thomson, what say you?
No, I agree. I think that's what set that generation apart from what we're seeing today in terms of governance. You have this currently, this zealousness that we see exhibited or shown by our Prime Minister, for example. I'm just hearing now, in the case of Jamaica, a similar type of appetite for acquiring of wealth that was not there. In the 60s and 70s, leaders in the Caribbean appeared to want a better Caribbean. They were concerned about federation, about common market, about, working together, movement of labor and capital across the Caribbean, and, being proud to be Caribbean. We have moved away from that to leaders that are simply looking after their own interests. And that to me is extremely, extremely sad. And it is the case in several Caribbean countries where we have that. And the same cry apparently for the Caribbean region. We must have a break from what we're saying. We must move in a different direction. It does the Caribbean no good that leaders are not thinking of a bigger, broader vision of the Caribbean, but thinking of their own self-interest and how they can preserve it, as we see in Dominica. It's all about, how do I preserve my little rock? How do I stay in office? How do I keep making the millions of dollars at the expense of the Dominican public? And we see that repeated across the Caribbean islands, and it's a far cry from what we had in the 70s and 60s. Absolutely.
And I want to send a challenge out to Mia Motley, who's a chairperson now. Mia Motley speaks a good game. She's a very fine speaking woman. She speaks a lot about what happens in Africa. I agree with most of what she says. But she has said nothing about the destruction of democracy in Dominica. She has said nothing about the sale of passports to bandits, criminals, mafiosi. With the passport that has the insignia, mind you, every Dominican passport, Tavares, has the C on it. What does that stand for? Can you tell me? I can't hear you.
Hold on. The Caribbean Community Market? CARICOM?
Caribbean Community, man. You go to the head of the class.
So in other words, hold on for me. Jamaica has it too, Every single Caribbean nation has it because you're part of CARICOM. Go ahead.
Do you understand that as a holder of that document, that instrument, there are rights and privileges that you have?
Yes.
You have traveled. So you're not only a Dominican citizen, but you have all the rights that the CARICOM Treaty gives to Dominican citizens, like Jamaican citizens, like Barbadian citizens. So,
within CARICOM?
Absolutely. So we are saying to Mia Motley tonight, Mia Motley, what is your position? In addition, we do not want you or the OECS leaders to send your RSS anymore. If they come for hurricane relief, a storm, a volcano, we understand. That's what we do. We help each other. But do not send your RSS as a thug group, as a militia, to support the oppression of Dominica's people by Roosevelt's carrot. Stop it. It's happened enough. And what you're doing is you're setting up conflict within the Caribbean region by your delinquent behavior in supporting a leader who you know or should have known has been selling those passports for all these years. And yet not once have I heard one Caribbean leader, not Mia Motley, not any one of them, say, hey, hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. All of these things are on 60 Minutes. They're on BBC News, the international press. These passports are being sold with the CARICOM seal. Can we have a discussion on this? Can we have a summit to discuss whether or not that is a good thing for our people? And by the way, what about the people of Dominica? How are they doing? If we say we are a community, community means family. Community means solidarity. Community means oneness, and it's all a sham when the needs of one member of that community are disregarded, and if anything, the people of that community are oppressed with the complicity of other Caribbean leaders. That is the challenge I throw out now, not only to Mia Mockley, but to all the Caribbean leaders and to all the Caribbean people. Because when anything happens in one Caribbean country, be it Jamaica, Grenada, Antigua, if there's a disaster, there's a hurricane, in the diaspora, we all come together and we help Jamaica, we help Grenada, we help Barbados, because I served both at law school at the University of the District of Columbia and at Georgetown University as the president of the Caribbean Students Association. And the majority population at all times was Jamaican, because Jamaica is the largest population of English-speaking people. And then you have Trinidad, and then Guyana, Barbados, and the other small islands coming behind. So I always come at things from a Caribbean perspective, right? Because when you want to emulate the stature of an Eric Williams or a Michael Manley or an Errol Barrow, that's how you have to think. Because that's how they thought. They thought of one Caribbean like we Pan-Africanists think of one Africa. And so you cannot be talking about one Caribbean and one Africa, and one of the members are being bludgeoned, the citizenship being commodified to the wealth attrition of people in Dubai and other places unknown, and you sit quiet. That don't go so.
I want Dr. Farron and are you, my good friend, Counsel, to tell us some more about this passport selling for citizenship. I heard the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines said that he don't build. Let me not say. I'm paraphrasing now.
I know. Rav Gonzalez has been very vocal in his condemnation of it.
Right.
I don't believe in it. I don't agree with Rav Gonzalez and a great many things, but he is absolutely correct. Because what has happened is, it has not accrued to the benefit of the people that it is supposed to. In fact, what it has done, it has made the Skerrit very resistant and hesitant to leave office because he's on a major gravy train, right? He has grown wealthy beyond belief, right? With homes and land and all kinds of things. And he is in a home now, which he claims is not his. He's renting it for $64,000. Is that a year or a month?
A month.
So who is paying for that? The people of Dominica?
The taxpayer of Dominica.
So what happened to the government house he's supposed to have?
Never fixed it.
It was not good enough for him.
It's just like we have down here. They have Royal, the official resident of the Prime Minister. And Royal look like a dump. And I'm not going to apologize about it. It's true. Royal in Jamaica look like a dump, and Prime Minister always refused to fix it up. Maybe they start doing something to it now. He lives at his mansion in Beverly Hills, I call those people the people of the Vumvava and the Vumvavi. Because those people are the effluence of society. They live up there, sir. So you're saying to me at this moment, as a matter of fact, we do not know how much money we know, but I haven't accessed the right amount of how much money is being spent on both the office of the Prime Minister and the resident of the Prime Minister. What you're saying to us tonight, Dr. Fontaine, is that the Dominican Prime Minister rent somewhere on the BS of the people of Dominica?
That is correct. And he promised several years ago that he would stop the rent and build, but now he continues to rent at $64,000 a year. It is alleged that this actually belongs to himself. We don't know because we've not seen the documents. The public in Dominica has very little information. The government, for example, signed an MOU with the Chinese government that they never revealed the details to the Dominican public. We still don't know. But I wanted to come back to the issue that you raised.
Hold on for me, Doc. The government of Dominica signed an MOU with who?
With the Chinese government in 2004.
Pertaining to what?
That was the first major act of this government. They signed a memorandum of understanding But then he told the Dominican public it's none of the business. You're not supposed to know what's in there, and we don't know. We have seen a few projects that the Chinese have done, so we are guessing. Each time there's a project, we are guessing that's part of the memorandum of understanding, but we really don't.
So you're saying to me tonight that government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Chinese not to give any information about any project at all in Dominica?
Not one word. We don't know. We have absolutely no information. We know that the memorandum of understanding exists. We know that the government of Antigua, for example, did a similar thing, but they've made it public. They've revealed to the public what it is in the MOU. Not so our government in Dominica. I mean, that's the kind of government we have in place, and that's why we've seen a lot of despotic behavior. That what we have in Dominica is a slow march to dictatorship. And the evidence of that is what we're seeing today. But I wanted to go back very quickly to that point about the level of resources. In economics, there is a term called the resource curse or the oil curse. So countries that suddenly come into oil wealth, it hardly ever is the case, especially developing countries. It hardly ever is the case where that wealth is used to the benefit of the public. So something that is supposed to make you to be a blessing becomes a curse. It's a similar thing with the CBI program. Given the unprecedented amounts of revenue that have been raised from those programs, that was supposed to have been a blessing for the country of Dominica, in the sense that this could have been used to transform the agriculture sector, transform the manufacturing sector, provide jobs for the young people, have great hospitals where people do not have to pay for their own medicines or their own basic supplies, have an education system that is well equipped and so on. But instead, what we see is that this wealth is going to the benefit of just a few people. So what is really supposed to have been a blessing is really a curse. And as Gabe said, we do not see the benefit to the general public. We simply are not seeing the benefits of the CBI. The government will boast about an airport, but that's an airport under construction now for the past 3 years. They are not making much headway. And God knows how long it's going to take to have an international airport in Dominica.
Dr. Fontaine speaks very wisely, but there's something that he has not said, not because he wants to not say it, but I will say it to him. Dr. Fontaine, you were born before independence, weren't you?
Yeah.
And we had newspapers in that time, didn't we? And remember, in those newspapers, the government would have what is called notices for public tender. Can you explain to Mr. Tavares what those notices would say, for instance?
Yeah, basically it would say exactly what was required, the requirements for tendering and so on. And not only that,
that was in Jamaica too.
Yeah.
We all have the same British system. We all have the same. Go on, doctor. Go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the same thing, the tendering process was clear. It was transparent. None of that exists today, and even the reporting to the public. So, for example, according to our rules in Dominica, anytime someone becomes a citizen, that their name is supposed to be gazetted. We put a lot of pressure on the government. They were not doing that before. In 2016, they published in the Gazette the names of over 2,200 individuals who had received passports. Based on that revelation, we were able to gauge the revenues from those individuals and what the government was reporting. And we had this big mismatch. It was clear that the numbers that they had was not matching those. And so the government simply stopped publishing those names. They've not published the names of persons in the Gazette since, again in contravention to our laws. So all of the laws that were meant to be transparent, our integrity in public office, for example, it was a seven-member organization. It's now down to 3 members. It has now, all the teeth have been taken out of the IPO. And because they questioned the government, and the Prime Minister basically cut the legs out from under them.
I want to hold a while for me. Hold your thoughts for me, please, gentlemen. There is an item of news coming into us that I need to. I'm not laughing at the idea of this news, but I want to say this. My condolences go to Hussein Bolt and his family. His father died today. About 2 hours ago, I got the news. But there's another news coming into us. Just a moment here, please.
This is Mach We Talk Breaking News.
An official from Emirate, an Emirate official has denied the launch of a flight connecting Dubai and Jamaica after Jamaica's Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett announced the launch early this week. You hear? An official from Emirates Airline has denied, not confirming, they have denied a launch of a flight connecting Dubai and Jamaica after Jamaica's Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett announced the launch early this week. That's the news coming into us, that they have denied such arrangement with Jamaica. Let's go back to what we're talking about. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the political turmoil in Dominica. I'm speaking to Dr. Thomson Fontaine, leader of the United Workers' Party, and Gabby, pronounce your name for me, please.
Gabriel Christian.
Gabriel Christian, yes. Gabriel Christian. Sorry.
Indeed. And I just want to say that talking about air travel and airports, the airport project in Dominica that's being built by Chinese was supposed to be built for about $1 billion, $1.5 billion. Okay? We have subsequently seen a document that purports to show the real value is about $300 million, which would be almost $700 million short of that figure. But the point is, whichever figure is correct, it failed to follow the system of public tendering that we came to know during the period of associated statehood when Dominica was an associated state of Britain. We would see in the newspaper, Brother Tavares.
Yes, sir.
Notice of public tender. Tenders, and I quote, tenders are invited from suitably qualified persons for the building of a wall, for the building of a school, for the building of a police station, and tenders to be submitted to the Director of Public Works or whoever the designee was, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Home Affairs, to be opened on a certain date, and so forth and so on. Why was that system in place? Well, it was in place because there was a requirement for transparency and accountability when it came to the management of public finances. And they did not want a system when the political directorate could just choose its friend or family member or party political supporter and give them a contract. It turns out the contract was given to a company called Montreal Management. Montreal Management is the same company that built the mansion the Prime Minister is renting. Are you following me?
So hold on. But Lamb of God. Hold on there for me now, Sir Christian.
Yes, sir.
This company,
Montreal Management.
Montreal Management, because Dr. Fontaine said it to me, and I'm trying to figure out, why should government money go through that company if that company is not a government entity?
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. That same company, and Dr. Fontaine, please correct me if I'm wrong, has been building homes, again, without any public tender. And the government has been giving those homes to its supporters. By the way, without any titling fee, simple absolute, that they could use those homes for collateral to take a loan. They give them a letter. And the letter says at the bottom, one that I have seen, I'm not sure whether all of them have that statement, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Dr. Fontaine, can you confirm, please?
Hold on. You... This is absolutely the same thing going on in Jamaica. The Minister of Local Government, Desmond McKenzie, said at one of these handing over at a press conference at Jamaica House that these social houses are given away, but if it's given to Christian or Thompson, it cannot hand down to none of your children. You have to give them back to the ministry.
This is uncanny.
So I did not even know that. So they're reading off the same script.
Yes.
So when we came out about this, I hit out against it. The Jamaican Prime Minister came out and said, no, go, sir. So we're trying to figure out who to believe. The Minister of Local Government or the Jamaican Prime Minister. We don't know who to believe. No, you were telling me the same thing going on in Dominica?
Indeed.
The exact same thing. We have instances when individuals have just died, and even before they're properly buried and so on, the keys are taken away from the family members and given to somebody else. If they
so hold on, is the property belongs to the people or the property belongs to the government?
It belongs to the government. Not to
okay. Listen to this now.
Yeah.
The Jamaica housing program is that if you have a piece of land or everybody who have a land can give to you, that they build a house on it for you. All right? Based on what we were hearing, because of the minister who came out with it, because apparently shouldn't come out. But the minister came out with it and said that if the house is given to Jeffrey Tavares, son or daughter cannot get that house if Jeffrey gone home to Jamaica. So we keep on asking, so why are they signing this thing for land title then? Until now we haven't gotten an answer. So you're saying to us tonight that Dominica is doing the same thing, but some of the lands are government lands?
Yes. The lands, first of all, they're not building houses, as in most of them are apartment buildings. Am I correct, Thomson?
Yes, correct. The vast majority is.
The vast majority of apartment buildings on government land, and you're given some sort of leasehold. You have no title. So in the old days, the Labour Party government and the Freedom Party government, when they did housing estates, you had title. And you could take that title to get a loan, to do a business. You could get that title to do a loan for send a child to school, buy a car or something like that. You don't have that now. So you're creating a construct in which the government, therefore, in power, the party in power, can keep its thumb, well, not even thumb, keep its boot on your proverbial neck. Because what happens is, if you are seen as an opposition member or supporter, no house for you.
I want to go back to the whole thing of the housing thing, though. This person who is from a different country, but by passport, he's now a Dominican citizen. All government funds go through his company, Montreal Holding.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Thomson, please confirm. We are informed from highly reliable sources that Montreal Management is also a vendor of Dominica's passports. Am I correct, Thomson?
Well, yeah, that's how they get some of it. Yes, they also do vending of the passports. Correct. Yeah.
So they're selling passports. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Thomson.
So what part of the lawsuit that we've initiated against the government is that they need to declare exactly what the nature of that relationship is. We need to see the contract that they've signed up that would allow monies from the state to go into private hands, and this individual turns around, or this company turns around, and then funds government projects. It is a model I've never seen anywhere else in the world, and it reeks of corruption and paybacks and all the rest of it, and it's just crazy.
What I can't understand, I'm trying to consume something here, because Jamaica does have a thing they call the consolidated fund. But I've never heard that government money goes through a holding company that has nothing to do with the Jamaican government. Maybe it is there, I don't know. How is it that Dominica has this person who has a holding company channeling taxpayers' money through their company? Something is not right here.
It's not right
okay,
at all.
Hold one second, Brother Tavares. Can you share screen, because I have the list.
Sure.
Of the agents. Or let me see if I can send this in the chat to you.
No. Hold on. You can share the screen, man. There's a thing that there's a plus at the bottom of the screen there. You have settings, stop screen. There's a plus sign there. Invite. Leave studio. Go to the plus screen.
Slide, share screen. Okay. Share screen.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, here it is. Yes.
What do you see here?
going on here? Hold on.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. Hold on.
Tell me what it says. Thomson, can you see it?
We remove. Okay, hold on. Let me remove this. And go to this. There it is.
Yes, we can now. Yeah.
Tell me what you see, Tavares.
Montreal Management Control Estimate Limited.
Look at
Building
infrastructure.
Building Dominica's infrastructure, yes.
Look at the address for the company.
Montreal, Commonwealth of Dominica, United Arab Emirates.
That's where they're headquartered. Okay, and at the top here, you see what it says? Can you read it?
Something not adding up here.
But can you read what it says?
Authorizing CBI agent, Dominica Citizenship Authorization, CBIC agent, Dominica.
That's right. And you see what the logo is in the left-hand corner of the screen?
Commonwealth of Dominica, Citizenship
by investment. So this is the government's website. And this is a list of authorized agents.
So hold on, hold on a minute. Go back up there for me. No, come down. No, come down, go back. Yeah, go up. Up. I want to see where they have the address. Here it is. Stay there. Stay right here. So if this is a government website,
yes,
why do they have this address? Dubai United Emirates.
That is the point we're making. We are not in control of our citizenship anymore. This is not the only one. There's several. There's several others. Let me show you another one. Look at another one here. You see it? Alfred Management. Do you see that?
Office 3204 HDS Towers, General Lakes Towers, Dubai United Arab Emirates.
Let's go on. Look at this other one here, Apex. Look at Apex.
Russia?
That's right.
Oh, what the back foot going on here?
That's right. I'll go on. Here's another one here. Bayat.
Dubai again.
Okay. Let's move on again. Look at this one here.
Dubai.
All right. Look at this one.
This is in Dominica?
Athens, Greece.
Where is it one?
Christos, Athens, Greece.
Oh, yes, Athens, Greece. Yes. There it is, yes.
Okay. Look at another one.
Greece again?
Yeah, that's a consulate that is owned by Alec, the other guy, Alec.
Look at another one.
Lennox Lawrence, sorry.
Father, help us, oh Lord.
Look at another one. It's another Dubai. Dubai is ahead by a mile. You know, just like Usain Bolt when he was running 100 meters, ahead by a mile. Another one again, Montreal Management. So that's what you have happening, brother Tavares. We've lost control of our consulates and embassies. They're run by foreign nationals of unknown origin. Most of them have criminal, when they're arrested, they're found to have criminal connections to mafiosi. And then they sell these passports and there's no counting done. And there's never been a commission of inquiry, although we've asked for a commission of inquiry for many, many years.
Does Dominica rule under the Westminster system, eh?
That's correct.
So that means Dominica have a governor general?
No. So Dominica, the independence, chose to become a republic. So instead of having a governor general answerable to the queen or the king now, the queen is gone, we have a president who's appointed by the party in power. So you don't have any separation of powers. You're really just a figurehead. The power really resides in the prime minister. The prime minister basically decides who the president is. The prime minister decides who the heads of the public department offices are. The prime minister decides who the ambassadors are. The prime minister decides who serves in the police service. The prime minister basically arranges for the hiring and firing of judges in the district court, at least, those that are not appointed by the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeals. So we have a situation where the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative branches all repose really in the hands of one man. So that's why we say we have not a one-party state only, we have a one-man government. So the whole system of checks and balances that we had with Westminster is gone.
I'm stunned, just like how my listeners and viewers on this program here is stunned, because they're saying that Dominica reminds them of Jamaica.
No, it's very sad for us. Very sad for us.
I want to ask Dr. Fontaine this question, though. Your way going forward with all of this, what is your plan to let the wider world know what is going on in Dominica? Because in Jamaica, they dub members of the Jamaican diaspora as troublemakers, including myself. Because when we take to the streets of Miami and the streets of New York, protesting what is going on in Jamaica, they say that we're troublemakers. We're bringing on the name brand Jamaica. And you have an individual with 28 bank accounts. You have $3 trillion of taxpayers' money unaccountable for. You have hospitals where people don't have any beds to sleep in. They're on the floor. A person sit up there on a chair for over 2 weeks trying to get a bed. I'm being told that there's bed, but there's no way to put the bed. Yet $3 trillion unaccountable for. Over $32 billion is spending on Conner General Hospital in Montego Bay, St. James. And I know it can't finish. And no head is being rolled. Yet they dubbed us as the Dirty 30. We are bringing down brand Jamaica. My question to you tonight, gentlemen, what is the plan for Dominica? Because if Dominica got the root of Haiti, when it comes on to political turmoil and civil unrest, the Caribbean is in serious trouble. And I keep on saying this on this program, that Jamaica is knocking behind Haiti's back door. And not only Jamaica alone, Dominica is knocking behind Haiti's back door. And if we continue like this in the Caribbean, pretty soon you're going to hear that Caribbean people are fleeing left, right, and center. Just like they started doing that already.
Yes.
What can be done? What is your plan for your beloved Dominica leader?
So, it's amazing how similar we are with Jamaica. Because even when we have protested overseas, like we took Dominicans overseas before the UN office there to protest, the same things were said. Why are you airing your dirty laundry in the public? But we believe as part of the plan to get his government to fix itself, as part of the plan to get his government to change, we must keep the glare of public scrutiny on them. We have to keep letting the world know exactly what it is. So part of how we solve this problem is to ensure that the rest of the world knows exactly what is going on in Dominica. Beyond that, as a party, we are reaching out to Dominicans across the country with a message of hope, a message that we deserve better, that we do not need a government that has literally its feet on the neck of the people, a government that is so corrupt, a government that has really cost us quite a bit. I mean, it has cost us access to the UK without visas, access to Canada. It has cost us now just 2 days ago, the EU. There's a committee that recommended to the EU Parliament that Dominica and Antigua and St. Lucia and so on be denied access into the EU. That's going to the Parliament. We might lose that. There's an ultimatum we saw reporting from the New York Times about the Trump administration possibly looking to have a complete travel ban on Dominicans because of the CBI program. So we have to fight really, really hard to keep that country afloat and really address our corrupt leaders and let the rest of the world know that we have a corrupt set of people in office. Let the Dominican public know that we have a corrupt set of people in the office, and let them understand that we have Dominicans who are willing and able to lead this country in a manner that is transparent, in a manner that will focus on bringing growth and development to the people of the country, That is what we are striving for, to be able to have our farmers be able to go back to the land and know that when they produce, their produce will be sold overseas. Our tourism sector will be in the hands of local entrepreneurs who will be able to build the hotels and maintain them and keep them up and running. Our manufacturing sector will be owned by locals who have, who have access to resources and can build up the manufacturing sector, so that we can put in a way, ensure that the jobs are created for our people, the young people in particular, that they be given an opportunity in Dominica. Too many of our young people can only find employment overseas. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of Dominicans in St. Kitts. St. Kitts has half the population of Dominica, well, not quite half, probably 2/3 the population of Dominica in St. Kitts. All over the Caribbean, we're losing our people to other countries. We want to see a reverse of that. So we're working very hard, to have a change of government in Dominica. That's why we keep pressing on the issue of electoral reform, because what the electoral reform offers is to have a level playing field where the people of Dominica can choose the leaders that they see fit to run their affairs, and not those who imposes the will upon them.
Before I have Sir Christian come in, I got to do something here, because something coming in on the wire here.
This is Mach Talk breaking news.
We interrupt this program to bring an item of news just in. The North Coast Times is reporting a man was killed in Buff Bay, Portland. A short while ago, police are on the scene of a shooting death of a Buff Bay man in Portland. Reports are that the man was shot and killed on the streets of Portland. No details were immediately available, but the body of the man is still unseen and police is on scene gathering reports. So the news coming into the Mach Talk newsroom that a man was shot and killed a short while ago in Buff Bay, Portland. And that is that's of the constituency of the Minister of Transport, Darrell Vaz, and also the People's National Party caretaker for that area is none other than our good friend Sir Isaac Buchanan. I'm pretty much sure Isaac is in Portland. I hope he's okay. I'm gonna reach out to him as soon as I come off air here to see if he's okay. But as we on air here, based on what we're getting, a man was shot dead a short while ago in Portland. No available, nothing, no news, no reports available right now pertaining to why the man was shot dead. But based on what we're hearing, police are on the scene of the shooting death of a man in Portland. The Prime Minister, along with the Minister of National Security, the crime is going down. So, Christian, over to you, sir.
Well, first of all, let me extend my condolences to the family and friends of the man in Buff Bay, Portland. The last time I was in Portland was with a friend of ours from the Jamaica UNIA, who is linked with the government, Stephen Golding.
Yes, good friend of mine.
We'll come to Jamaica to make a donation. Myself and the treasurer of the Ethiopian Crown Council, Mel Tawahadi of Harar, Ethiopia, to the Emperor Haile Selassie High School in Kingston 1. In September of 2017, we donated $750,000 to the Emperor Haile Selassie School. That was a school that in 1966, many people don't know, that when Emperor Selassie made that famous visit to Jamaica, he didn't come with his hands swinging. Of course, he couldn't bring the school with him, but he brought the money to build the school, and the school was built, I think, within 2 years of his having visited. So by 68, 69, the school was opened, and it has about almost 1,000 students. So
may I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
The money that you donate, was it donated to the Jamaican government at the time or just to the school itself?
Well, the check was donated, I believe, to the school. The Jamaican government folks, we interacted with, I met with Babsy Grange, and from Clarendon,
Mike Henry.
Mike Henry has carried my books at his bookstores at Kingston at Norman Manley. So I know Mike Henry and Mike Henry's family, represented Mike Henry's family here in Maryland. So those are people who we worked with when we were there. So I assume the money was used for good purpose, for the stated purpose. I trust it was. But I want to take a moment to say that in all of our islands, we have too many gun crimes. And we, Thomson Fontaine and myself, had the opportunity to invite Prime Minister Skerritt, when he was Minister of Education, to New York for the largest Dominica diaspora in the development process symposium on December 7th, 2001. Remember that, Thompson, at the Brooklyn Marriott?
Yes.
And so we are people who've worked on development projects in Dominica. As a matter of fact, one of the more recent projects involved Dominica and Jamaica. We have the high honor and privilege of representing the Marcus Garvey Institute for Human Development. All of whom incorporated it, and we work under the direction of one Dr. Julius Garvey, the last son on earth, the last child on earth of the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It's a friend of ours. And we worked with him for the donation of 1,000 breadfruit plants to Jamaica in 2015-16 and another 399. So the only two countries that Dr. Garvey facilitated sale of Mafala breadfruit, not sale rather, donation of Mafala breadfruit was to Jamaica, his home island, home country, and to Dominica, which was also a great center of the Garvey movement. In fact, one of our great leaders, J. Ralph Casimir, was the leader of the Garvey movement in the Caribbean and was someone who had arranged the visit to Dominica of Marcus Garvey in 1937. So I share this because the relationship with the Jamaica is very close. But let me just tell you where we are. Dr. Fontaine is the leader of a political party, but he's also a member of an alliance of the civil society in Dominica. And what we believe is important for Dominica to do is for Dominicans to move away from the set of one-party state and the hyper-partisanship, because all it does is create unnecessary hatreds and political blindness and bias. So we're looking at the coming together of all democracy forces, because we believe that democracy dies in the darkness. Let me repeat, democracy dies in darkness. For democracy to live, it has to be fully illuminated. We have to be transparent in government affairs. We need to have civil liberties. We need to have due process of law. And governments in power must not use their position of authority to bludgeon the opposition, put them in jail, impose on them very burdensome conditions of bail. For instance, some of the conditions they're imposing now are utterly ridiculous. They're saying that the people who have been given bail, and you must understand that I deal with bail hearings all the time in my business. And in a bail situation, the only thing you want to really make sure happens is that that person commits no crime while on bail and shows up at court when the court is set up for trial to be heard. They're now saying that they should not be involved in any demonstration. They should not opine or speak about any political matter or any of the matters in controversy, which means taking away their civil rights. And so we are seeing a steady erosion of civil rights in Dominica. It's pretty much gone. And we're saying that the way forward is to continue to make outreach to civil society, all the parties to get together in one grand democratic alliance for good governance, so that we can remove the dictatorship that's now on our necks, that has caused the majority, the overwhelming majority of educated Dominicans are fleeing Dominica. The Dominican intelligentsia, by and large, has given up on the Skerritt paradise. They don't want to live in his version of paradise. And so without the educated portion of any nation's population, we can't build. And we didn't want to sit back and criticize, because criticism is cheap. So we involved ourselves in community work in various forms, and the Academy of Arts and Sciences was one such element that Dr. Fontaine was involved with. And I had the high honor and privilege of working with him for almost 20 years on myriad projects in agriculture, in education, with the cadet program, and things that are meaningful that can help build a strong country. And we thought we had a partner in Roosevelt Skerritt until he went rogue and spent most of his time in Dubai with potentates and others who are unsavory, giving people who he knew or should have known were unsavory the badge of war, not citizenship, diplomatic passports. How can you be more rogue than to allow people who have been arrested by Scotland Yard? When Scotland Yard arrested Alison Madueke, the Nigerian Minister of Oil, in a $20 billion corruption scheme, and they opened her purse, what did they find, Jeffrey Tavares? That she was a Dominican
they found a Dominican diplomatic passport.
Diplomatic passport, ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary.
Well, we have one in Jamaica, you know. We have one in Jamaica. He's the ambassador of plentiful. He was the former chief of the Jamaican Defense Force who presided over the 2010 incursion into Tivoli Garden. And in that same incursion, a friend of mine, who I know very well, Keith Clark, was murdered on Jamaican soil by but you know something? Keith Clark had 20-something bullets pumped into him by the state, the Jamaican state. And those who have done it, free like a bird in the sky. 21 bullets was pumped into Keith Clark up by Kirkland Heights. His wife, his daughter, all three was at home. There was no criminal at home with them. And coming on from off of his closet, turn his back. The Jamaican security forces pumped 21 bullets or 25 bullets in Keith Clark's back. And nothing comes out of it.
Well,
So there's no justice for the people of Dominica. And there's no justice for the people of Jamaica. Dr. Claudette Clark and her daughter now live in Harrow because their dad was murdered and her husband was murdered in front of her by the state, the Jamaican state. And nothing comes out of it. And that is why we must stand up and we must not give up the fight. Let it be said that when we are all gone, Christian and Dr. Fontaine, that we men fought for individual countries and for the Caribbean. And we fought for it. We fought for justice. It cannot be continue like we, as if these people must just continue going around as if they're rogues and want to be dictators. Huh? Our forefathers like Marcus Garvey, Nanny of the Maroon, and other forefathers of the Caribbean didn't fight for Caribbean for us to sit down and accept these people to continue what they're going on with. We must fight for the democracy of the Caribbean.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
As I said to my Jamaican people, that this election that's coming up in Jamaica is an election that we must fight for the democracy of Jamaica. We mustn't play with this election. And Jamaicans must go out and vote. Our forefathers fought. Our forefathers fought for us for the right to vote. And we must go out and vote. And we must not hug up nepotism and cronyism and corruption and nepotism. And you gentlemen, I am so happy to meet you that we can talk. Because what is going on now, it brings tears to my eyes to see that your country, my country that I love so much, is going down the straight. It is going on a slippery path and a slippery slope of no return. And because in Jamaica we're so partisan, we can't see the country Jamaica. All we can see is the color green or the color orange. Labour Party or PNP. When can we see Jamaica? When can the people of Dominica see Dominica? Not the political parties of Dominica, but Dominica as a country. That we can leave a Dominica for our children. That we can leave a Jamaica for our children. That we can leave a Caribbean for our children. When are we going to wake up in the Caribbean and call a spade a spade? It is a shame and a disgrace that not one single member of CARICOM has said anything is going on in Dominica. That's to show you where some of them loyalty lies for the people of the individual country.
Brother Tavares,
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I think I speak for Dr. Fontaine when I say that we are eternally grateful to you. Democracy dies in the darkness. We are Keith and kin. We are one people. When Jamaica hurts through a flood or a storm, we're there. You know, we don't have any partiality when it comes to Caribbean unity. Bob Marley, it was Bob Marley who said, What a beautiful thing it would be before God and man to see the unification of all Africans. But I think you could always use that same phrase to say, to see the unification of all West Indians. We play as one cricket team. You know, Thomson, having been in Washington, he knows we operate as one family. We intermarry. We go out together. It's auntie this and uncle that. In fact, most of my kids' aunts and uncles are Jamaican. Okay? And so this is how we live. And this is how we must continue to live, in one bond of affinity and affection one towards another. Being mindful of the sacrifice of Nani and Kojo, the folks up in the Blue Mountains, all right? Being mindful of Brother Sam Sharp, who led that great rebellion and who was hung for it, and being mindful of the Right Honorable Paul Bogle and George William Gordon, who never got to see self-government. I was saying on your program the other day, every year we must have a Sam Sharp symposium, or maybe we call it Sharp, Bogle, Gordon.
Yes.
Bogle, Gordon, Sharp, BGS. Have a BGS symposium so we can begin to understand the contributions of Paul Bogle and George William Gordon and Sam Sharp to our national maturation, to how it is we got to be where we are. Not forgetting the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who just the other day finally got exonerated. We give thanks. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't have a sense of our history of struggle, of independence, of people who gave their lives so that we too could live free, who did not look to wealth and riches, but looked to service of the community where they were born, if we don't have that integrity of our forefathers and our foremothers and our ancestors and those who gave their least and everything to us, then we would have missed the mark. And so we have to remember those great leaders, and we have to walk in their footsteps.
Wow. You said something tonight, and I want you to end with it. I want you to end with the words that you said. Is the bell thing you said a while ago about the bell?
Ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee, because we are one community. And every one Jamaican, every one Dominican, every one member of the human family that's oppressed impacts all of the strands of humanity.
Injustice everywhere.
Injustice anywhere.
Yes.
Is a threat to justice everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes, sir.
And as we end tonight, Dr. Fontaine, you want to say anything to your Caribbean people as the leader of a political party in Dominica?
Absolutely. I just want to appeal to our Caribbean leaders to speak up about what is going on in Dominica. You know, interestingly, for the past 8 years, I worked in the region there, in the South East Africa region there, many Eastern Africa, including Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, South Sudan, so in that region. And anytime there was an issue occurring in South Sudan, we would get the leaders in the region to speak up. We get the leaders in the region to either visit South Sudan, to speak to the leadership there, or at least to have that involvement. And that's a very healthy part of how you help to build countries, where other leaders, especially those that surround you, take an active interest in what's going on. It's not that they're interfering, it's just that they're helping to move those countries that are a little slower, probably not going as quickly, probably not doing the right things, help them to shape themselves and move in the right direction. I would love to see that being done more in Dominica and in the region, where CARICOM leaders become more conscious. I would like to see CARICOM, for example, moving to expel countries that are not toe in the line, countries like Dominica that appear to be going rogue. I would like to see forceful action on the part of CARICOM to deal with those countries so that they can, in fact, toe the line eventually. That would be my appeal to our leaders in the region. Do not forget us in Dominica. We're going for an extremely difficult time. It hurts when at 6 o'clock in the morning you get a call from a man who should be heading to his farm, having to be told that he needs to be in a police cell. It hurts for doing absolutely nothing, simply standing up for his right. It hurts when you see a young lady who is just visiting someone else at the police station is pulled in because she was seen on a videotape from a rally. This should not be happening in Dominica. It is wrong, and we want to hear the voices of condemnation coming from across the region. We would also like the churches to be awakened to this. We want to hear the church talk more about what's going on. We need to hear the voices of the clergy, the voices of the pastors and the preachers and the priests talking about the injustices that's happening in Dominica. We should not be silent. We cannot be silent about what is happening in Dominica. It is only through speaking out. It is only through condemnation. It is only through talking to this government of Dominica that we'll see a change and we'll see things happen better for the people of Dominica. For now, it's tough, but we are standing, we are firm, and we'll continue to fight for what is right in our country.
Dr. Thomson Fontaine, leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica. My good friend, Sir Christian, co-founder, Dominica Academy of Art and Science, attorney at law, a man who I would say has two citizenship, a Jamaican citizenship and a Dominican citizenship in a sense, where he speaks truth to power. Gentlemen, don't be a stranger to the Make We Talk program. Let's continue to fight for the democracy of the Caribbean. Let's continue to fight for the soul of our individual countries, Dominica and Jamaica. Thank you both for coming on to the Make We Talk program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too. God bless you.
Thank you.
I want to say tonight to everyone who came on this program tonight, it's been a pleasure having you on this program. And despite what may go on in our country, Jamaica, we must continue to pray for the people of Dominica, for the leaders who stand up for justice in Dominica, like a Dr. Thomson, Sir Christian, and others, who will come out on social media and not afraid to fight for its people. I want to say thank you again for coming on, sir. God bless you. And continue the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This is where we're going to say so long for tonight. Before we go, I think we have some housekeeping work to do. I want to say thank you all for coming on. For those in the chat room, when I listen to this, I said to myself, this is Jamaica all over again. I'm getting some videos from out of Portland of what is going on in Portland. That is what is going on in Portland as we speak. Apparently, someone was shot dead in Portland a short while ago. I want to know, and I think I'm going to do some investigation. Is Jamaica selling their citizenship too? Because it seems like it's a good business in other parts of the Caribbean. Not good business for the people, but good business for the politicians. We want to know if those Chinese in Jamaica have they bought the citizenship. There's a video circulating on social media with some Chinese in St. Elizabeth showing this finger. It can mean peace or it can mean shower labor rights. We don't know. It's now 10:24. We have been from about 8 o'clock. I want to say thank you very much for coming on. Thanks to the producers of this program. Thanks to the moderators in the chat room, Gigi and Walking in Divine Purpose. I want to tell you all thanks for coming on. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. May God bless you. And once again, ask not what your country can do for you, but what He can do for your country. Today was the last day of Jamaicans going out to put their names on the voters list. I hope you all did so. And I hope when the time comes for the election, when it's called, that you go out and exercise your right to vote. Your vote is not for sale. Anyone who comes to you to buy your vote secretly record them or video them and send it to me. It is your constitutional right to vote. Do not sell your vote, my fellow Jamaicans. Do not sell your vote. And to the people of Dominica, continue to fight the fight that you're fighting. Because the change that you seek will never come from the two political parties in Dominica. The change that you seek will come from you as a people. And to my fellow Jamaicans, both home and abroad, from Negril Point to Moran Point, our forefathers have fought for this country that we can exercise our right to vote. Our forefathers has marched from Morant Bay to Stony Gut because they wanted a Jamaica in which we all can come and live. And so tonight I say to you all that the change that you seek as a people in Jamaica will never come from the People's National Party of the Jamaica Labour Party. As what Mr. Golden said, Jamaica do not belong to the PNP or the JLP. Jamaica belongs to the Jamaican people. And for those who believe that this country is owned by the People's National Party of the Jamaica Labour Party, think again. This country is owned by the Jamaican people who stand up for justice, who demand justice from its leaders. So let it be said that a Jeffrey Tavares, a Wilfred Rattigan and others will continue to fight for the democracy of this nation. Doesn't matter which party is in power. And I want Mr. Golden to know this, that if you should gain state power when the election is called, and any member of your political elite believe that they can disrespect and go on what is going on right now, think again. Because I'll be coming out. I will be fighting and saying what I need to say. This nation of ours, the last time I checked, is a modern democracy. And the rule of law must apply. And if you, Mr. Golden, should gain state power, I hope you stand by the Jamaican people. And I hope you dig deep into the level of corruption in this country. And I hope that you will do what you need to do in the sense of those who are involved in the nepotism and the corruption in this nation. That those will face the rule of law. The Prime Minister have always said this. Is either you face a judge or you face your maker. Be careful of what you said, Prime Minister Holness, because you may face a judge. And the judge that you may face is either the judge on earth or the Almighty God. Because somewhere in St. Matthew I read about God is a heir to the poor. And you all keep on using the Bible verse in your political elite, in your political speech. Be careful of what you're doing to your people. If you read your Bible, you know that somewhere in the Bible speak about King Nebuchadnezzar, the ruler of Babylon, who believed that he can rule his people and there's no help for the people. You know what God did to King Nebuchadnezzar? That he go out in the field and eat grass. Like any animal. For those leaders within the Caribbean and for the leaders of Jamaica, be ye careful of what you're doing. Because the people serve an awesome God. The people of Jamaica, Prime Minister Holness, serve an awesome God. And if you think you're going to continue, whether the PNP or the JLP believe they're going to continue to have a shadow over the Jamaican people head, you think again. because the people will stand for justice, peace, and truth. The people will stand up. Peacefully we will stand. And as we go off tonight on this program, let the sound of a change ring out from Negril Point to Moran Point. Yes, we can. Our Jamaica, our change, our Jamaica, our choice. Yes, we can. Yes, we can to the soul of this country. Yes, we can to change this nation. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Good night, everyone.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people.
Reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it not help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength, make we reason. Make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it not help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk. Unity is strength, make we reason, make we talk. If we see corruption in any shape or form, we're going to highlight it. Make we talk. Jeffrey Tavares represents yard and broad and the entire diaspora. As long as it affects the life of our nation, uncover the truth, make we reason, make we talk. And we don't care about no vumva viva va, no upper echelon, nobody is not above the law. As long as it not help Jamaica, make we talk. Make we talk.